Okay, I'll now call the meeting of Hanwell Council, the regular meeting of council for July the 19th, 2023 to order, please. And before I ask for approval of the agenda, I'm going to have an addition 17F. It's for the purchase of a zero-turn lawnmower. Any other additions to the agenda? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda, please?
I move to approve the agenda with the following additions. Add 17E, update recreation services agreement with the City of Fredericton, and add 17F, zero-turn lawnmower.
I'll second.
Okay. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those contrary minded? Thank you, council. Motion carried. So we're moving into 3, adoption of the minutes from the June 15th, 2023 regular meeting of council. Can I have a motion, please?
I move, oh, go ahead.
I move to adopt the minutes of the June 15, 2023 regular meeting of council.
Seconder?
I'll second it.
Any questions, errors or omissions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those contrary minded? Motion carried. Thank you. I need a motion to adopt the minutes of the June 20th, 2023 special meeting of council.
I move to adopt the minutes of the June 20th, 2023 special meeting of council.
I second.
I have a question.
Sure.
I just want to verify again, I have to vote for this. I wasn't here tonight. I just feel really, I listened to the audio online, but it was mumbled in plenty of spaces, so I have to vote in the positive. Am I correct? I
That's
can't
just
abstain.
usually the procedure unless there's something wrong with the minutes.
I don't see anything, but I mean, for me to vote for it when I wasn't technically here, I listened to it, but it was garbled sometimes, and I had a hard time, and I just want to make sure.
I agree. It seems bizarre for the same situation for me, but
Yeah.
it's in the local government.
But if you're forcing me to vote, then I'll vote yes. I just want to make sure that that's what the force is.
Fair enough. Any other questions, concerns, comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those contrary minded? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 4, public input inquiries. I think we have any that I'm aware of. Oh, yes, we have one from Mr. Fortier, I believe.
Yes. Oh, just waiting for guidance. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. My preoccupation has been since Victoria Day weekend, when all the fires that were occurring all over Canada and elsewhere, and my preoccupation has been, you know, what is the master plan, what is the major emergency plan for the residents of Hanwell, and more specific to the residents of Yoho Lake. So I attempted to make several contacts with the MLA, the Association for Municipalities, the Anglophone and the Francophone, the Ministry of Natural Resources, the Ministry of Municipal Affairs, and our Liberal leader, Susan Holt. For most part, there was a lot of contacts made, and for most part, I got nowhere. Okay. So on June 27th, Yoho Association was wanting to host a meeting about the association per se, because the association basically as it stands has no president, no vice president, missing directors at large, and so on and so forth. And so they asked, there was 8 areas of concern, and one of them was the emergency plan for Yoho Lake. And on top of that, the other component of it was the warming center. There's nothing on the webpage indicating what the purpose or what would happen at the warming center if something did happen. And well, obviously that doesn't cover fires. It covers ice storms and wind storms and everything else, but it really wouldn't cover fires, I wouldn't think. So I just thought it was, and I was looking through the emergency plan that Yoho, the 16 pages, notedly that there was nothing upgraded to it according to what I see since 2015. Okay, so there's a huge gap between today's reality and what had happened in 2015. I'm not speaking here, and clearly not speaking here on behalf of Yoho Association. Please note that, because I do not represent Yoho Association. I am not on the board. I'm not on the, and I choose not to, because my function is the safety and security of all residents of Hanwell. And my home is Yoho Lake. And there's one way in and there's one way out, unless you have this kind of a road map and try to figure out how to get to excuse my language, get out of there. So that is my one major concern. And I personally think there's a lot more to be done, and I don't think that this administration has the capacity to deal with the bigger picture. I really think that the province needs to step in a big way and resolve some of the issues that are there. And not only for Yoho residents, but other residents that have limited access to, you know, and we don't have the human capacity. We don't, you know, many of us are seniors, including myself. We don't have the capacity. You know, we do have some skilled people in the area, but at this point in time, nobody really knows what they're doing or how it's going to be coordinated and so on and so forth. So the warming center is there. It was accepted, graciously accepted. It was welcome, but since then, nothing's happened. So we're sitting with a center with no guidance. And, you know, Mr. Bidlake, who was supposedly and in charge, said, he sent me an email here. He says, "Hi team, with Dan's dog-like perseverance, we found out that not only does the Yoho webpage not mention the Scout warming station, but the Hanwell website, according to Dan, does not mention the Scout warming station. This gives us a great opportunity to develop a plan for ourselves. We have one-page document to start procedures, but nothing to the alert of Yoho residents that the station is up and running and that the hours are. So this can be our first attempt at getting something done." So this should have been brought, I should have brought this to the table probably a couple of months ago. It is, I'm concerned, I'm not crying wolf here, it is an urgent issue. We've been blessed in New Brunswick with all this rain. You know, and people complain, oh, more rain. Not this guy. I'm not complaining at all. I'm protected where I live, surrounded by all those trees and potential. So enough on that. And the other question I had, the other concern, and this all started because I asked about the fire ban. And the fire ban basically says, okay, no fires all 24 hours a day and so on. But what it doesn't exclude, and Tim, I don't know if I shared this with you, but it doesn't exclude is fireworks. Okay, I know, I appreciate the Hanwell administration, they post it, and they said no fireworks, but it's not a law. Okay, whereas Nova Scotia just upped their fines from $500 to $25,000 for use of fireworks during the fire ban. So it's time, not this administration, but I would support, it's time for the province to start getting tough on the use of fireworks in rural New Brunswick. It's not a Yoho fight, it's a New Brunswick fight, and it has to happen. And there's a couple other things, but I think I've expressed enough, and I wish to also get clarity in the near future about which committees individual resident could sit on. And I know some of it was posted, but I have some not concerns, a couple of questions on that. So I can direct my questions to this to the clerk. And okay, thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Any questions?
No, thank you for your concerns, and your concerns are the concerns of all Hanwell residents. We all live in wooded areas, And obviously fires certainly are our main concern. Do you have a specific ask of council? Like we can put it up, put it through our EMO committee and possibly, contact the province with our concerns and residents' concerns and, and see what happens. No guarantees, obviously, but I certainly think your points are valid. No question about that. And, when you've got an area with only one access road in and out, if you have a fire in the middle of that road, how did the people in the closed side of the road manage to get out?
Yeah, I'm thankful for the work that's been done, but obviously it hasn't been updated since 2015. Yoho Warming Center's not in place. There's resources. We don't have the resources, and I know the province has the resources to do something much bigger. And I heard that the federal government is also allowing, have put out millions and millions of dollars for provinces and municipalities to seek to find the right resources. We don't have a search and rescue team. We have a lot of elderly people living in that area. So yeah, I think if through your associations, through your MLA, I know I called Dominic Carty several times. Unfortunately, he did not respond. Regrettably, I would have thought this would be something that especially in view of what's happening in Canada. I'm passionate about it because my family is north of here, in Quebec, been impacted by this whole thing. So for me, it's a personal thing, and I didn't, as a city boy, never realized how important that particular issue is important. I just think collectively, I think you need to address and you need to garner support through the associations and make sure that the association of municipalities target the province and say, listen, maybe they have a solution, maybe they have a part of the solution. I'm sure they're willing to help, but we need to, collectively, we need to ask that question to them.
Good.
One point of good news on, I believe, thanks to Pat, he notified, I was following up with the Ministry of Department of Transportation. I know they changed their name and I've got it on file, but I can't remember it right now. But there's been some concerns about 640 all the way down to Harvey, and it's brutal. The shoulders are bad. There's been patched up holes. But I heard that they're doing extensive, thanks Pat, extensive work, thank you.
Refurbishing is good.
Thank you. My French is coming out, but I'm happy about that. So they're doing it all the way to Harvey and next spring.
Good.
So this is good news
Certainly is.
for Hanwell, and this is where it should be posted. This kind of news is great news. I'm tired of hitting the shoulder, especially when you got a turtle in the middle or
Or a deer.
Or deer, or a moose. A lot of moose sightings on Yoho Lake lately.
Yeah, for
Thank
sure.
you for your time, I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for your
And,
comments.
I'm always open to questions and you have my contact information. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fortier. Mr. Fortier.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I attended a meeting of council on May 17th, at which point I read some very disturbing comments that were made towards me by yourself, Councillor Mackenzie, and the CAO. I wish she would have been here because she could have maybe answered why she spoke that way about me. To date, nothing's been done. Well, I can't say nothing's been done because that evening around 9:53, I received a call from Mr. Mayor. Very apologetic and trying to, bring me back in the fold and let's all be friends and let's do this. Even at one point, he even offered street lights. Now that's that's almost a bribe. That's the way I look at it. That's like me pulling somebody over and there's a $20 bill on the driver's license. Oops. So I don't know how this council works, but I don't think that's the way you're supposed to do business.
I don't want to
Criticize-
interrupt you, Mr. Poirier, but I don't recall offering you streetlights. It's not in my power to offer you streetlights. I might have offered you the opportunity to put a petition through.
No, you didn't say petition. If you want, we can always listen to it.
Listen to what?
I never know, stuff gets recorded all the time.
You're certainly not supposed to record anybody's conversations
Why not?
without their permission.
Okay,
Anyway, this is
one-party rule in Canada, okay? That is the law.
one-party rule?
One-party rule. I can be talking to you and I can record.
You know what?
As long as I'm part of the conversation, I can record.
Right. And I'm not going to argue with you.
Me neither,
but
I'm
I
not
didn't.
arguing.
You can bring your tape in and I'll listen to it, but I'm sure I didn't offer you streetlights. It's beyond my capability to offer you
I'll
streetlights.
tell you what you said, okay? You didn't say, I'm gonna give you streetlights, that's not what I said. You brought the subject up, let's, maybe you should start working on the streetlight thing, and I'm gonna, get that bylaw changed and all this and all that. Why bring that up?
As we were talking about it, I suspect.
No.
Because that's your pet peeve, is streetlights, right?
No,
Anyway, I'm not going to argue with you.
I'm
This is
not
not the place to
arguing
argue.
either.
Continue with your presentation, please.
okay, that's basically what I wanted to say, that's.
But you're not going to come in here and accuse me of saying something I didn't say. I can't sit here and take that, even in a decorum situation.
I'm not accusing you, I'm just saying what I interpreted of what you said. Okay? You're saying you didn't say it.
That's right.
Well, a lot of things, somebody sometimes doesn't remember what they said. But they did say
And
it.
sometimes people don't remember what they heard. But enough about that. If you want to continue with the
Anyway,
presentation, by all
anyway,
means, go
All I
ahead.
wanted to say was, I didn't find that, to date, nothing was done on that, so I'll have no choice but to file formal complaints. I think that's with the province, I don't know. That's about the only thing I think that could work to address the issues.
Yeah, that's certainly your prerogative.
Okay, have a nice day.
Okay, any other public inquiries while we're at it?
Just got one question. I'm a resident of Hanwell, been to a lot of these meetings over the last year or so. Again, a lot of very disturbing things come to light. I'm just gonna pose a question for everyone to ponder, and so that we can kind of look back and reflect, and perhaps this can be avoided in future. But one question that I have, is there a conflict of interest for Councillor Darren McKenzie to be chairing and directing council via the Governance and Policy Committee to reform and develop a new code of conduct bylaw, particularly when there are ongoing public rumblings that he has potentially overstepped his authority and position via the Hanwell Community Center solar panels tendering and procurement process, and his concurrent personal home solar panel purchase and installation process.
I'd like to comment on that since it's directly a personal attack against me and it's a point of personal
Not,
privilege.
it's a
I believe that
question.
it is, I'm taking it as such. That has already been investigated and that case has been closed as I have provided evidence to prove that there was no conflict of interest and that my panels were put in before we had made a decision to go with that other company.
Okay,
Just to be very clear
That
about
was the
that.
question.
And I want this to stop now.
it's a question. That's all I have.
Okay, any other public input while we're at the subject? Okay, moving on. Disclosures Council. Reports from the Fire Department. Chief Kraus, you're up.
Evening,
Looks like you had a busy month.
council and public. Yes, in June, we had 19 calls in total. And it said on the weekend, it was up to 138, you rounded off to 140. But we're up to 145 now. So, anyway, total incidents since since the 1st of January, 220, and 4,732.4 man hours put into, that's training, truck checks, calls, everything. I shouldn't say.
That's a lot of hours.
Probably a lot not added on to that.
You can be sure.
So, any questions about June report?
Council, any questions for Chief Kraus? No questions? Thank you, sir, for your report. We certainly appreciate being kept up to date with the ongoings.
No problem. The other thing I wanted to pass on is the power outage the other night. The computer at Station 1 had an awful poor lot with surges.
Wow. Is there any surge protection on the panel?
There is,
And it still got by?
is still, for some reason, don't have a full look at it though. See what the story
See
is.
what's going on, yeah. Yeah, keep us informed of that, Chief, for sure.
No problem. I will.
Okay.
Send Sherry the bill.
Pardon me?
Send Sherry the bill.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
She'll be
Okay.
expecting you.
Can I get a motion to receive the fire department report, please?
Motion to receive fire department report.
Seconder?
Second.
Questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate you coming up.
No problem. Have a good evening.
Okay, presentations, we have none scheduled. Permit applications.
The fees paid seem better this time, don't they?
Pardon?
The fees paid seem a little better, don't they? No, it looks better than it used to be. We get $400 for a
Yes.
$300,000 widget. So the new fees get applied or something to them?
Yeah, I know the Regional Service Commission certainly looked into it, so they've obviously, tightened up their financial obligations, I would say.
It just does seem, I don't know if it is, it could be
No, they seem to be, the values seem to certainly be more representative of real and true value.
better than it used to be.
Yeah, so it looks pretty good. It's certainly been a busy month. We've got some interesting construction going on, anywhere from houses from 250,000 to 500,000. No proclamations, no petitions.
Do we have to receive that one, or?
No, we
No.
never do, no. It's just for information purposes. So item 11, business arising, item A, code of conduct. So I believe we have a motion forthcoming.
We do. I have a bit of a preamble before it, lead up to it, to give a description of why. So back in December of 2022, a finding was made by council that Councillor Septon was in violation of the Code of Conduct bylaw 19 times, with some other potential violations dropped. At that time, he was issued sanctions as was defined to do so via the conflict and complaint resolution policy and the bylaw. Since that time, he has not only ignored these sanctions, but has continued to violate the same bylaw repeatedly. He has referred to our Code of Conduct bylaw online as a sham, so it appears that he has no intention of ever following it. As frustrated as council has been about this, we have generally stopped issuing violations of this, as has been much of the same problem repeatedly, and frustratingly, there aren't many things left that we can do about it. I hope that other municipalities that may be hearing or reading this are paying attention. Unfortunately, he has found a way to escalate things once again. He has now started to doing podcasts, the most recent of which, for whatever reason, all the way out in Alberta. A reasonable person would stop when multiple people are telling them that they are doing something wrong and reevaluate what they're doing, but not in this case. And this is the thing that infuriates me the most. It's one thing to spread misinformation about your council, but when things that you are saying have been explained to be incorrect many times, it's no longer just misinformation, it's outright lying. And this is something that cannot be tolerated any longer. Much like with the original decision and sanctions, there could be implied an apprehension of bias in this situation. This was also pointed out by the independent third-party reviewer who studied the original decision and the procedure that led to it. In that review, it was noted that although it could be implied that there has to be bias here, as the group both making the decision and imposing sanctions is also the group that are impacted by the person's actions. However, that same review also noted that this must happen as the Code of Conduct bylaw is self-enforcing and council is a self-governing body. This same situation applies in every municipality in the province, as they all have a self-enforcing Code of Conduct bylaw as it is required by the Provincial Local Governance Act. Also, in the interests of procedural fairness, I will ask of Councillor Septon the same thing that was asked of him in both the November and December of 2022, which he declined in both cases, that he stay here long enough to give his side of the story on why he continues to do this and why he continues to escalate it. However, I would like to note up front that if he does stay for the vote of the motion itself, I will be bringing forth a formal complaint of the rather obvious conflict of interest violation. With the changes that were adopted recently to our Code of Conduct and Complaint Resolution Policy, as recommended by an expert in the field, which I am not, but the other person is, I imagine many people that are aware of this, that this was on the agenda tonight, are expecting me to motion for Councillor Septon to be declared unfit to govern and be dismissed. Well, as problematic as our current situation has become, I am still willing to give him another chance to make things right. Perhaps being away from his duties as a councillor for a while, with an opportunity to reflect on everything that has transpired, and maybe to re-evaluate this entire scenario from the beginning, hopefully this time with at least trying to see council's side of it, will bring forth a different result. That said, I propose the following. Whereas Councillor Septon has still not completed his assigned sanctions from his previous Code of Conduct violations, as defined on September 6, 2022, and whereas Councillor Septon shows no remorse for his previous and ongoing actions, and in fact still continues to escalate the situation online, and whereas these past and ongoing actions have created a completely toxic work environment within the municipal office, council, and staff, I hereby do motion for the following. 1. That Councillor Septon be suspended from his duties as a councillor of the rural community of Hanwell, effective immediately until the first day after the October regular meeting session of council. These duties include, but are not limited to, sitting at the council table during council sessions or committee meetings, moving or seconding motions, being involved in the discussion of motions, internal communications, participating in municipal events as a member of council, and requests to staff on behalf of council. 2. That Councillor Septon turn over his key to the municipal office to the clerk within the next 24 hours. 3. That Councillor Septon turn over his laptop to the clerk immediately. 4. That Councillor Septon return any additional property of the municipality that is still in his possession to the municipal office within the next 24 hours. 5. To authorize and direct the clerk to contact our IT administrative team and have Councillor Septon logged out of any remote sessions of Outlook and Office 365, and to have Councillor Septon's Outlook and Office 365 accounts locked as soon as possible. 6. That Councillor Septon not represent himself online in any capacity as a councillor for the duration of the suspension. 7. That this suspension will be lifted if Councillor Septon comes in compliance with the original sanctions that were imposed on him on December 6, 2022. And 8, that this suspension will be re-evaluated at the October regular meeting of council to determine if it is to be extended or if further action is warranted.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, we have motions on the floor. I'm going to ask councillors for comments. I'm going to start with Councillor Septon.
Yeah, again, it is hard when you beside a person, so I do appreciate that. I understand.
Yeah.
Doesn't make it any easier for anybody, but this is not going to make it easier for anybody either. I used to sit around, and I appreciate you fellas' time to hear me out. I used to sit around at home and wonder how so many people can believe and follow President Trump. This council has put me through a master class. I didn't start out aggressive. I didn't want to be doing this. I don't want to be defending myself. I truly don't. I hate everything about it. Those who know me know I'm a guy who gets along, but I also am a guy who's going to stand up for myself and for my constituents. Some of you in this room may feel you would never support Trump, and I'd argue the voting records in these actions may disprove that. It's merely a matter of circumstance. This council may put me through a masterclass on how following a Messiah how to follow Messiah but ignore facts. I offered so many off-ramps to date, but you guys are the ones who keep escalating and continuing, including here. I am merely defending myself and will continue to do so. It's as if the beatings will continue until your trust is restored. This seems to be the council's only philosophy. I told you from day one, a stick doesn't work on me. Continuing to use the same method time after time is the tradition of this council. To everyone in the room, a reminder, all arguments and conversations should be recorded or in email, as I've tried to deal with council only in writing or collectively together. I ask that if you have any questions to our tip of the information, including the full email threads. I stopped engaging council outside of the emails for reasons such as tonight, a long time ago. It was inevitable, inevitably predictable. So whatever is said should be easily proved either way. Before I begin in my rebuttal, and I'm writing this, I didn't know what was going to happen tonight. I am actually kind of surprised we didn't take up the motion that I was going to be fired. Well done, that threw me for a bit of a loop. But let's hear an email from the Mayor of Hanwell Council. Quote, I would add that I believe that our council is on the verge of being in a position where we will not be able to continue or function as council. This would be regrettable, as I believe most members of council truly do want what's best for the whole community of Hanwell. However, I'm ready to approach the Minister of Local Government and Local Government's Reform to express my concern as mayor that our council is no longer effective due to a breakdown in trust within council, and that consideration should be given to either offering us support in a way of mediation to try to overcome and break down what has been developing over the last 2 years, or offer some other means to assist us in council. The division among us is evident at every meeting and is difficult for all of us, including staff. Dated February 3, 2021, 5 months before I was elected. Then Mayor Susan Cassidy. When I walked in as council 5 months after that email was written to council, I clearly stated I can see the issues in everyone's eyes. The answer now, as it is then, is simple. A first-year psychology student can identify the problems here. The council, to this council, I'm a bad guy. And when I leave, it'll be the next person who wants to see and make sure rules are followed, wants answers, and wants to keep things that are secret to the public so they're aware. The previous council, many people in this room were feeling the same way as we're feeling now. Like others in this room are feeling now. Instead of learning and growing from the experience, we repeat the cycle. This goes back to every council we had. And if we are changing each council by 50% or greater and the same problem exists each and every time, one has to start looking inwards. What is the commonalities between last council and this one? We need to stop weaponizing the code of conduct. We need to deal with facts. I have no issues with voting based on feelings, but they can't be presented as facts. The CAO puts her personal views into everything and presents them as facts. Many times these facts are not facts, and if challenged, it always turns personal. The conversations for 2 years for DTI, for instance, are at the top of my mind at our role versus their assumed role presented by the CEO and sent just as early as this summer, a few months back, by the CEO, completely contradicting the rules. Statements such as, they don't know their file. Listen to this email from the CEO when I posted in September about the sidewalks after a few concerned parents and teachers reached out about people walking and photos of bike racks to the school presented to me. I'd like to note, I knew this would happen. I would be attacked, and in fact the code of conduct against me was that I should not lie or knowingly make a false statement. But here's the thing, I knew no matter what I said, I'd get threatened with harassment if I stood up for the constituents who reached out to me, or a code of conduct would come against me. So I listened to the audio and literally quoted the CAO, quoted the mayor, and quoted the deputy mayor. How can it be false if I'm literally quoting you? If logic stands to reason, and I was found guilty of lying, and I quoted you, does that mean 3 people lied too? Is that 4 of us who lied? You can hear the audio for yourself. And why do I have the audio when no one else did? Because I needed the record scraped for historical references. It may have been unlucky unlucky to some I had it, but you all heard the CEO over and over again share the same statement I wrote and recorded, but people in this room opted to ignore the facts. Accepted the CEO's sworn statement to be true. She never spoke to the principal, and it was never a reason. The CEO stated she had nothing to do with the codes of conduct in November, that it was you guys who brought those issues forward in November and just had to investigate the issues independently, but how does that compare to this? On September 11th, 2022 at 9:14 p.m., the CEO emailed Mayor Morrison and Deputy Mayor Jonah. I was going to give him a chance, but he's out of control. I will have something for you and the Deputy Mayor Jonah with his emails, comments on social media, and how they have gone against the code of conduct. Sherry, the clerk, compiled from July onwards, but maybe we need to go all the way back to the beginning of the Transportation Committee and give it to an outside investigator as all governing party, as local government is not going to help. This is a huge conflict of interest. But before somebody states the mayor or deputy mayor brought up the codes of conduct, I have the full email thread. It was not. Again, the CEO misrepresented. The mayor and the deputy mayor decided to go along with it. First, what was I out of control of? Quoting our voting reason given publicly to the public. Second, the CEO stated in November 2021 she had no part in this code of conduct. It was you councillors who brought it forward. But clearly in September, it was she who was raising and researching the concerns, using staff as a resource. So when you formally charged me, the CEO went on to state, again documented, it wasn't her who brought the charges, that she just investigated the codes of conduct you brought to her. You listened to Councillor McKenzie's own words on when it's appropriate to use informal complaint, and it doesn't add up to this scenario. Staff kept a McCarthy-style file on me for 2 to 3 months, then executed it informally, resulting in exceptional formal consequences. Let's recap a few charges I have. I was charged with sharing the public portion of the public debate to the public the next day at 2 p.m. I was charged with sharing lies to the public, which was literally copied, I encrypted it, from the mayor, deputy mayor, and the CEO's own statements. You can hear the literal audio. The CEO goes on to swear she never said it, but you all heard it several times. I was charged with talking to a citizen about his concerns about our solar panels, that I divulged secret information by him telling me about his issue. I still can't square that one away. Code of Conduct bylaw policy. It's in the Act, it's in the bylaw, that we must be transparent in all things. But to this body, that seems to be second to the whim of staff and leadership. September 11th, the Code of Conduct was drafted up. A McCarthy-style file on me, a councillor. But you expressed it had to be informal because it just happened. It just came to your attention. And that's just patently, provably untrue. I have to go to court tomorrow. Tomorrow morning to get the very documents I requested to defend myself in November 2022. My tipper was ignored and pushed off. Councillor McKenzie stated all one has to do is ask. Well, I asked several times. All the money in the world to come at me, all the resources the mayor, the deputy mayor, Councillor McKenzie and staff can use to come at me, but no time to get me documents that I should have had handed to me immediately in my oversight role. August 17th, 2022, I asked for a copy of the quote for the solar project so I could put a citizen's concern to rest. I asked several times thereafter. When did I get the invoice to review? A duly elected official for this constituent to get to see it? 11 months later. 5 days ago. 6 days before I go to court. And only after I had a file and ticket in my oversight role. And even then, I don't have nearly what I asked for. It truly feels a deliberate act. It feels like a cover-up by leadership and staff. And this assault on me carries on that feeling. When a citizen filed a code of conduct, as Councillor McKenzie referenced earlier, and I did not know that a citizen here was going to speak on this subject today. I spoke to nobody. When a citizen filed a code of conduct conflict of interest, code of conduct and a conflict of interest to Councillor McKenzie, the CEO, the investigator, the mayor, and Councillor McKinley all stated he had nothing to do with the negotiations of the project, and negotiated his long before. There are citizens and other people who have documented this. If I can't trust the people in this room to honestly reflect on those statements that were stated to us as fact. It was done separately was the statements made to all of us. I'm now reading documents that prove those statements may be false. Councillor McKenzie, it seems, was negotiating his solar as he was negotiating ours. As we sent in our application. Councillor McKenzie sole sourced the project, refusing the CAO's offer to consider another company. Quote, unquote, we owed them. Who owed them? The taxpayer? Councillor McKenzie? Councillor McKenzie wanted to state to the mayor later that summer, even if we paid $10,000 more, we owed them in July of last year. I want to be clear, do not conflate the project of 2022 with anything prior. Comparing the two would be equivalent to getting quotes to building a shopping mall or getting quotes to build a shed. It requires two different types of companies. Councillor McKenzie knows this, and I have the audio of January 2022 where he put the motion forward to look for a grant where he himself clearly states this had nothing to do with that project. This is different. So when the citizen asked who else did we get quotes from, Councillor McKenzie and the CAO falsely stated that Epic in New Maryland, for instance, wasn't interested, and they asked. They did not. That is patently untrue. And even the CAO's own words to Councillor McKenzie, she recommended we get a quote, which was summarily rebuffed by Councillor McKenzie. The statements that proved not to be true. In the CAO's own words, she asked Councillor McKenzie to consider another solar company in New Maryland that may be more local in case of issues. At the very least, there is a conflict of interest. But to learn that that citizen went out, the citizen from the community went out and got 4 comparable quotes, all $50,000 to $65,000 in difference, is disconcerting as a representative of Hanwell tasked to be fiscally responsible. To this day, I still have no idea what the total project of this cost. I know what Clearwater charged us, but I don't know the rest of the project despite of asking several times. I did just discover that Brunnet was part of the solution as well. The mayor, I also learned here in council, called up the citizen who shared his concern with me, and the mayor gave him hell for talking to me. More concerned with protecting the councillor than providing open, transparent answers. Then partaking in charging me with a code of conduct for that very action. Am I allowed to sole source a project that I want done for my house for council because I owe them? Is this something all us councillors are allowed inherently to do? There is something wrong. And to be clear, there may not be any quid pro quo. Let's be clear. There may not be any wrongdoing. But the sheer number of mistruths that were shared to me by staff and members of council doesn't bode well. But I get charged with a code of conduct because the citizen asked me about it. You all have earned a healthy skepticism from me. I feel you're running council as your personal taxpayer club house. We need to change. We need to be able to engage the public. We all don't have to engage the way I want to, but you got to stop charging people who wish to. You keep coming at me, including tonight. When do you tire of it? It's as if defending myself is the worst crime of all to you. How dare I challenge the authority of Council 3? But the sheer fact that 5 people on this council thinks it's okay to overturn an election of a democratically duly elected official shows the need for more oversight, not less. Reasoned governing, not the stick. Shows the need for greater community involvement, not less. There's overreach of power even by this tonight, by this council, but by other. This overreach of power assumed by this council, but not other governments in Canada, arguably North America, is disconcerting. It speaks to the very heart of my objections. If this government is bold enough to come at me, accuse me of doing misconduct, then this government should be bold enough to accept that I have the inherent right to defend myself. I feel there are fraudulent and unethical steps taken against me to stop me from asking questions. And these aren't the only questions I have asked. There is no time to get me the information, but all the money and hours in the world to come at me as one would in a private clubhouse, but taxpayer funded, with taxpayer dollars. I feel your mission is to stop oversight into staff and operations above all. If you believe with all your heart you're on the right side, then defend the position and let me defend mine. Any government who isn't open to their decisions being challenged isn't a democratic government, it's a dictatorship. Many times during this process, you guys broke me. Many times, thanks to the community, they propped me back up. You want me to stop defending myself? Stop attacking me. It doesn't get any simpler than that. What am I trying to do is break the cycle of bad counsels. Because as I've opened with, a first-year psychology student can answer the problems we have. It's easy. Staff, stop injecting and tribalizing counsel. Counsel, watch for the facts and refuse to be put in a tribalized scenario. Stop assuming I am against you. I am not. Stop policing and weaponizing the code of conduct, speaking to the public, or making an argument for or against something. Don't like my arguments? Debate it, vote on it, move on, as I do with your arguments. Remember, we're hashing all this again, because these are the issues you bring up with me. Actually, I asked that we motion, I get to spend 8 hours with the lawyer, present what I know to be true. The best part is, they can present it to council, and let's remove the filtered voice of the CAO and the mayor to the legal, and let them see my perspective. It can arguably save the taxpayer money in the long run. A lawsuit against his counsel and some individuals is almost inevitable. At the very least, Hamwell's legal team will have a better understanding of my point of view. And remember, I didn't start this, but you can rest assured I will defend myself and my reputation, such as it is after what you fellows put me through. And for what? Somebody's ego? What do I ask? I ask you to take your proverbial foot off my throat. Stop attacking me for speaking in public with things I know to be true. And in turn, you will see me stop defending myself. Want to heal? We all had enough pain, enough punishment to go around. The punishment for all of us, surely, is enough. Rescind the motion of December 6, 2022. Share the information to do my job, regardless if you think I need it, and let me decide what I need. And let Bill 45 rule the day going forward. And then let's try to be better to each other. I also want to address a couple of points that were brought up in this particular issue by Councilor McKenzie. And I can't read my handwriting. So yes, I was asked by several podcasts, counselors, communication specialists from around this country. It was like, how are you getting involved in this? I've been asked by several people to explain how this situation is possible. And I spoke as Councilor Septic, not on behalf of council. And we were clear since we began. The fact that you're using the podcast as a way to escalate this says, again, more about you guys than me. The only way we're going to heal is when you fellas stop attacking me. I yield.
Point of order.
Thank you. Forgot.
Please, members of the audience, please refrain from any motions, noises, whatever. Anyway, I'm going to move on. Okay, thank you, Mr. Septon, for your comments.
I'd like to speak last, actually, if somebody else can go first.
Yeah, this is the way I'm heading around the table, so that's fine. So, Councillor Jonah, do you have anything to add?
Well,
Sorry, Deputy Mayor Jonah.
sorry.
My apologies.
No problem, I know who I am. I almost don't know what to say. I really and truly don't. You keep saying that, we are attacking you. And that you, when you vote on something, it's over and it's done with. Nothing has ever been over and done with. Nothing. How many of you heard already tonight about the solar panel project, which has been, you voted on. You voted for it, same as everyone else did. You were aware, you were told many, many times of, how it went, what it was, it was started, had to be changed because we couldn't get land, it went on and on and on. The vote was done, you voted for it, we moved on the panel. You accused Councillor McKenzie of numerous things, all of which were proven to be untrue, but yet you keep bringing it up and trying to ruin his reputation over and over and over. Saying that the school, it was barely here, and you just keep, you don't ask questions. I mean, unfortunately, I did write some notes down, I don't even know if I can bother you. The situation has gone on from the very beginning. And we've tried to talk to you in the beginning as fellow councillors to try and give you some helpful hints. You were new, we've been around. We obviously, some of us even considered you a friend.
and tried to help you as a friend, and at all times were slapped down. And actually, I've been personally lied about in public by you. I have no idea why. But anyway, nothing was ever, that was in the code of conduct, as you'll recall. I've never received an apology, I don't really need one. I don't know, it boggles my mind, but I've gotten to the point where something has to be done, because I forget what they, how they put it. The true definition of craziness is to rehash the same old thing and expect a different outcome. And we've been doing that now since first election, was it 2021? When all this started. And it's been over and over. I've heard the same things tonight. I've heard many, many times. And realistically, we've spent many hours of council's time, staff's time, not to mention money, on something that we are obviously have no intention of ever seeing the same light. Do I really have to have my picture taken by someone I don't know? Well, there you go.
Technically legal.
Technically legal, but unwelcome. Anyway, carry on. Hope it's a good one. Probably won't be, but what the heck. My question for you is, who appointed you oversight? I don't recall we having a meeting and deciding that anyone here was an oversight of everyone else. I thought this was supposed to be an open and democratic association, or whatever you want to call it, council. Yet you seem to think that you have an oversight over us. Well, I assure you, you don't. You know, the rest of us don't. I can't speak for anyone else. I can only speak for myself. I don't particularly like being bullied and whipped and stressed out every time I come to this place. And to be perfectly honest, it is time. We've done everything we could. It is time to move on. And this is the only. You've been every time we've gone to a outside investigator. They talked to you. They dealt with you. You've seen the report. They didn't agree with you. I've heard some conversations with Youngwood. They've not agreed with you. You keep, like I say, especially I don't know what the fascination is with this solar panel business, but I mean it's been put to rest 10,000 times, and you keep saying that every time the vote is done that it's over with. Well, it's not over with. Nothing has ever been over with that we've ever dealt with since the beginning of this term. Yes, you are right on a few things. There are certainly, everyone's discouraged. Some staff are not here, they're on sick leave, and others are, you know, I mean, I agree with your comment about that everyone is stressed and wanting to quit. That's absolutely true. And it is because of the actions of this type of action it puts everyone in an adversarial position, and people just get tired of it. And it's just, you know, you can legalize and you can go on and on and on for days and days and days. And it's not going to change the fact that we are tired of being bullied and harassed by numerous people. And we're spending money and time that we don't have. Our projects are getting behind because staff and council don't have the time to do it. We spend our time on our ticket requests. I spend more time looking up things on my computer than I do anything else. And I'm just, anyway, it is time to move on. That's all I have to say. I'll probably do things later. I'll send you an email, so about it.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Heislip.
Okay, well, I'm not going to rehash all of this again. I have disagreed with this and how council, how we handled it from the get-go. You all know that. I spoke on it. This, to me, is a very substantive motion. And as such, I believe council should have had a notice of motion.
Point of order, it wasn't a notice of motion given at this 1 week ago today.
A notice of motion requires a written. All you said was you were going to make a motion against a councillor.
By Robert's Rules of Order, that's all that's required.
Darren, Councillor McKenzie,
Excuse me.
I am speaking.
And I am calling a point of order. It's not for you guys to carry on back and forth. Your comments are be addressed to the chair, which is me.
Fair enough.
Okay?
Fair enough.
So carry on, Councillor Heislip.
Anyway, in order to consider this fairly, it is a notice, I believe, we should have a notice of motion. It should have been a written notice of motion. waiting until October. So I have to ask the question. It's an elephant in the room for me. So are you waiting, suggesting that council wait until October because dismissing a councillor prior to would mean that that councillor could actually run in the next by-election? So waiting until October means he can't. So to me, that's wrong on all levels as well. Our original bylaw had stated that we cannot stop a councillor from doing their elected duty. All of this means he cannot do his elected duty. So, to me, I cannot support this. Sanctions have already been imposed. In particular, Councillor Septon has had no remuneration now for 6 months and won't for the foreseeable future. So, to me, no, I cannot support the motion that was presented.
Thank you, Councillor Heislip. Moving on to Councillor Fox.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We laid out sanctions in December. Nothing's been done. No apology, no move. No move to even indicate that there's any sense of wrongdoing. We then went to an independent investigator who spent a great deal of time, Councillor Septon, with some of the rest of us, and that independent investigator came to the same conclusion as council, that Councillor Septon was in violation of the Code of Conduct. Councillor Septon has said frequently that he's given us lots of opportunities, lots of off-ramps. The only off-ramp is to be, that I've heard from Councillor Septon, is to say that he has not done anything wrong and to just go back to square one, and I don't think that is right. Councillor Septon said that this isn't about the facts, but it is about the facts. It's about the fact that Councillor Septon has violated the Code of Conduct 19 times. Not once, not twice, 19 times. I feel tonight that Councillor Septon's comments about the solar array were meant to be a diversion, to take our minds away from what we're dealing with right now, which are the violations of the Code of Conduct. It's not about other things. It's also my understanding that actually Councillor Septon was not found to be in violation of the code for speaking to someone re the solar panels. That was one of the items that was brought to us, and if I remember correctly, and I could be wrong, that when we reviewed that item, we decided that he was not in violation with respect to that. So all of that discussion to me is really a side point. Councillor Septon has said that he didn't start this. Well, you can probably tell by my voice that I'm stressed out, and I have been for over a year. Councillor Septon did start this, and tonight I hope we can finish this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fox. Okay, moving on to Councillor Pack.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's already been mentioned that we've discussed this before, and I spoke to the matter before in the way I will now. I'm listening to Councillor Septon, I'm listening to Councillor Mackenzie, and my other colleagues in a form of rebuttal. Repeat things. I've heard them before, but all from a point of view of a listener who hadn't experienced what they're describing. My term of office began January 1st, 2023. I routinely hear the dates 2021, 2022. I can't relate to any of those things. If I read about them, I'm reading them through someone else's lens, not my own. I find the work of council is impacted by all of this. Everyone's emotions, everyone's experiences with the infractions, with the codes not, and sanctions not producing a resolution. There is an environment here described as being a toxic workplace, and I need a definition of that to be able to relate to it, because I'm very old. You can see by my gray hair. I've been in many uncomfortable work environments, and never have they resulted in the eventuality of a firing. So, even a disciplinary action. So it meant that all the parties involved needed to follow policies, procedures to work the best way they possibly could together, especially in this environment. We are not working for ourselves. We are working for the taxpayer who elected us. And that's an overriding concern of mine, because I know all of you are very dedicated to the residents of Hanwell and want to serve them in the best way possible. It seems that we don't all think of that in the same way. That's my comment for now. Those are my comments for now. Don't know if vote will be taken based on our comments this evening or whether we have another round of comments, but I'll leave it at that for this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Peck. Councillor Kraus.
I really have no comment. As Debbie pointed out, we've only been here for 7 months. We're reading the threads and whatnot, and it's not really, I just like to see it end. So we can
Can I
move
just
on.
have a quick sidebar with Councilman Kinsey? I'd like to have a rebuttal, but you want to go last, so would you mind if I just rebut and then you can go?
Sure.
Is that okay?
That's okay, yeah.
Your worship, is it okay if I just respond to a little bit of rebuttal of what happened here, and then Councilman Kinsey's going to button it up?
Okay, you have the floor.
He asked for the final say, so
Okay.
I want to respect
Appreciate
that. A lot just to unpack here. First and foremost, if you listen to the definition of why we had to go into an informal process, and then you listen to Councilman McKinsey's definition of when you can go into an informal process, it's night and day difference. Clerk, you're here. I appreciate you being here. You fully stated when you were going to, with the closed, when I shared to the public that there was a motion supported by Councilman McKinsey and Councilor Jonah that for closed session, that you fellows were going to stop the recording council sessions. Thankfully, we backed off. It didn't happen. Everything worked fine. But the charge against me was in closed session. And by the act, closed sessions have to be public. You have to give notice to the public, and it has to be in the calendar. I respectfully ask you fellows to show me when we went into closed session, because I cannot recall the time. Then to go back when, and the clerk, you're here, I apologize for the situation, but obviously it would have been before September. You had compiled a list against me about what I could have been doing wrong. Then we're going to be talking about why am I bringing up solar over and over again. Because Councilman McKinsey brought it up against me again, which I never even got to defending that, so when he brought up his complaint against me. These are things that keep coming up to me. And I think we're in a conflict of interest. And I didn't realize the citizen was going to state that. As hand to God, I had no clue that citizen was going to bring up that conversation, because I came to the same conclusion. When I see a committee who makes policies only in I don't know how it works. I assume you email each other, but there's no real meetings, as I understand, to try to stop this conversation. It just seems wrong. And I agree with Councillor Dr. Peck. We are spending the taxpayers' money on this. I think we can get over it. Just stop attacking me. I'll yield. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, I'll wait then. Councillor McKenzie wants to speak last, but did you have a comment?
I just had one comment, maybe possibly a correction. You keep referring to the time when there was a discussion on whether to keep recording the council meetings or not. First of all, the only time that was mentioned was, an email was sent out, said, is there anything people would like to discuss at the next meeting? Which is not an official meeting, it's just, we want suggestions. Councillor McKenzie, I think will confirm what I'm saying, he had been recording them at the time. No one was listening to them because he could tell how many people, I think one person had listened for a few minutes one day and stopped. Anyway, so he asked the question, he put it to, if you look, and since you like emails so much, look through your email and find that he said that this is a lot of work, no one is listening, maybe we should either stop doing it this way or do something else or whatever. I sent an email saying, sure, and he wanted to know if that could be put, and then at this point he asked that this to be put on the agenda for the next meeting. So this was, this was not something at a meeting that was public knowledge, whatever, it was to put things on the agenda. Nothing, it wasn't even necessarily going to be, don't read it.
I'm sorry, I apologize, I'm looking down at my computer. I apologize, Chair.
Anyway, that was what happened, and that's a fact. And if you want to look it up in the email, you personally sure. So, and in the meantime, someone else made it before it even came to the council, before it even decided to put on the agenda. Someone suggested something else, somebody said something else, and I don't recall what. And they came to an agreement about what to do. So it was therefore never put on the agenda. The next thing we knew, it was on Facebook going, oh my God, people, you have to come to a meeting and stop these people because the deputy mayor, one of the councillors, wants to make this all secret and keep us from, knowing what's going on at meetings and escalating the whole situation. That's why you get a code of conduct complaint on that. Not because we care if you share the message, anything that was on council is therefore public knowledge. But when it is, and you know very well, and you should know, that anything that is put on is an email thread between people about what could possibly be on an agenda, until it's on the agenda, is not meant to be shared on public social media or anywhere else. And that was what the code of conduct violation was about, not because you actually, had it been on the agenda and it had been going to be posted on the agenda, you should have said, look, this is what's going on, people. If you want to come and see the conversation, then would have been the time to do it. We've never had a problem with what you say. It's a matter of when you say it and how you say it. And how you escalate everything into that we are the nasty people who are trying to keep you from doing your oversight role. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And before...
Point of order, I have to rebut that one argument. I want to read exactly what it was, because there's misinformation. I understand that we're remembering things a little different, so I want to respect...
If I may, because I can correct that, to explain it.
Because I have the dates and timestamps, and I know when I pasted on Facebook and when it was resolved. It was in between while I did this, and that's a fact. The motion was coming. I have it right here.
The motion was not coming.
Please, let's kind of keep order in here.
I'll be done with my conversation. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, I'm going to... this isn't your final comments, this is just a clarification of what Councillor...
If everyone's done, because there's a lot to digest here, there's a lot of things that I need to... But I can clarify that.
I'm going to save you to the last, Councillor McKenzie, but as mayor I can't comment, but I'm going to relinquish the chair to my deputy, and I just have a few comments. And I'll make my comments, and then you can have the grand finale, I guess, of being last place. So right now, would the deputy mayor take over the chair for the next few minutes?
Certainly will.
Thank you. So, Councillor Septon, you keep stating that you are under attack by council and staff. Nothing can be further from the truth. You have been found guilty by your peers of breaching the duly legislated code of conduct, not once, not twice, but 25 times. These breaches were confirmed by an independent third party, which you had asked for. Where the code of conduct had been violated, consequences were imposed by a majority of council. These consequences were completely ignored by yourself, and you continue to deny any wrongdoing till this very day. You have also continued to openly breach the code of conduct on an ongoing basis. Perhaps this suspension, if approved by council, will give you the time and the opportunity to take responsibility for your actions. It is not a sign of weakness to admit that you were mistaken. We are all human and make errors in judgment. The real test of strength is to admit when you were wrong and learn from your mistakes. And that's my comments, and if Deputy Mayor would consider, I'll take over the chair again, please. Thank you. So, Councillor McKenzie,
If I may.
this is the grand finale.
All right, I'm gonna work backwards, so, yes, so, the issue was resolved between the point where, I believe it was I don't need to see it, I know it very well, but I had to read it already 15 times. What happened was, to clarify, the discussion did happen about it. I said I was gonna make the motion, I explained why, she's already explained why. The problem is, what the violation here is of the procedural bylaw. And since you're on your computer, you want to look it up. The procedural bylaw very clearly states that issues that are of hot button topics with the public shall not be discussed with the public until the actual agenda is posted online for discussion. Because, look it up, I don't remember what section of the procedural bylaw it is. That was the problem. That's what triggered all this. And like she said, it's not, we don't care that you have conversations with people. Talk to as many people as you want. And I've already said this many times in the past. It is not about debate. We're not debating things here. Every one of these issues that were picked up were because of the way you said things. Causing people, like staff members, to leave here in tears. I don't understand how any member of the public can still be defending that. It's what person thinks that that is okay? To be so hurtful to people that they leave the office that they work in tears. Not just once, multiple times. That's very hurtful. At some point you have to say, something's wrong here, maybe I should reevaluate what I'm saying. Now, back to some of the two other issues here for Councillor Heisler. The reason the suspension is okay now, quote unquote, would be that now that Bill 45 has had royal assent, though it's not enacted yet, it's coming, it is codified, the suspension is now okay. Before that point, it was kind of iffy. We do have a legal opinion from our lawyer that it is okay, but again, I'm not a constitutional lawyer. I can only go by the advice that are given to me by people that know what they're talking about, and I was told that it is fine. As far as the notice of motion goes, as I was going to point out, but I was totally out of line to say it at that time, was that I did give written notice that this was happening tonight. You don't have to say what the specific motion is because, I'll be frank, it wasn't drafted yet. It wasn't drafted until last night. And to be very clear as well, it was kept secret. No one was given the information of what my preamble or my motion was going to be until I read it here tonight. So that puts that hopefully to bed. Going back further in here, so some of the things are still being referred to by Councillor Septon that were actually not found to be violations. For example, the one that you keep mentioning here about the discussion with the resident over my character assassination, quite frankly, and I'll be addressing that legally as well, by the way, for you and anyone else that continues to push this. The fact that no one cares that you were talking to him about it. The problem was, what would have led to the code of conduct violation, is that you divulged, and I've said this in the past again, and I'll address that, you divulged to council that I was under investigation. An investigation, by the way, twice, that were in both times found, because I gave evidence to support that I didn't have anything out of this. I got no benefit from this. So I was found not to be in conflict of interest. No one cares if you're talking to the resident about that. The problem was that you told council, after the resident told you that I was under investigation, no one mentioned any names or anything. You told them, you may have did it indirectly and you didn't realize you did it, but you admitted to them that I was under investigation at the time. You can't do that. You can't breach someone else's character by with a confidential matter. Investigations, when they're in progress, are confidential. And you broke that confidentiality. That's a huge problem. And this is part of the other problem with it. That even when it's explained to Councillor Septon, Mr. Chair, that he either ignores it, like he doesn't want to believe it, so he ignores it, or he just doesn't comprehend what's being said. This has all been explained many times already. Again, as far as, and as far as the quote with the solar array thing, and this, I'm so sick of this. Councillor Septon saw the quote for it when he voted to approve the project. It was there at that time. I don't understand this here, didn't see the information. It was all there. He approved it. Everyone saw it that night. As far as misquoting me with the "we owed them" to make it sound, it's manipulating the public, to make it sound like some kind of a financial thing, that's not exactly what I said. And the reason that I had a faith in that company specifically was I had been working with them on this project for 5 years. I started this project for the solar array in 2017 in meetings with the federal government. I met with the federal government every couple months over the funding for this to try to work on this. And a lot of the delays were, we don't have land, we have to have quotes, we have to have this information. And there's an email trail to back this up in the RTIP request that you keep asking people to do, that we did approach Epic at the time and they said that they weren't interested. That did happen. And there was another company that was approached at the time. They were at Keswick Ridge, and they have long since folded. I can't find a trail on that one because they didn't have anything other than contact from a website. And the reason I prefer to use companies, and other councillors have ran with projects, by the way. It's not just me. When you start a project, you usually take it all the way through to the end. That's the way municipal things work, which the independent third-party auditor called out. That it's better to go with companies to get reliable work that you have been around for a long time and you know they're going to be around for another long time. Because if you need warranty work, you can't get it done if the company is folded, like one of them already has. And the reason these companies, solar installers and all this, whatever, there's federal grants that are available to these independent people to start up. They take the grants, they start something up, and then they fold. And they move on. They rename their company, and they do something else. And this happens a lot. A lot of things, a lot of little businesses do this. They do it to take advantage of grants. Everyone knows this. They do it to take advantage of grants, and there's lots of evidence for this too, by the way. You can look it up online. They take advantage of the grants, they fold, they move on to the next project, taking advantage of grants again. That happens. We shouldn't get involved in that. We have to have something that we know is going to be sustainable for the next 25 to 50 years. There are solar panels that were installed 50 years ago in some places that are still running. Not as efficiently, mind you, but they last a long time. But you have to have somebody around to be able to fix it. If it's in your house, it's probably not that big a deal. Because some people might be willing to go up on the roof and do things themselves. I'm not getting up on the roof of this place to fix panels, there's something wrong with it. And I certainly don't expect a building maintenance officer to do it either. That's why we have warranties. It's important, that makes a big difference. It's also been explained multiple times that many of the things that he's been charged with, I don't know whether, it's not a criminal charge, it's an accusation or been shown to be in violation of, violation would probably be a better word, violations taking people, but he's just not listening. I think I pointed that out earlier. As far as the money goes, I do find a bit of hypocrisy here. He does point, Councillor Septon, Mr. Chair, does point out the fact that this is costing a ton of money. And I believe, I don't have full numbers yet on this because we don't have all the bills for it yet, but I believe at this point we're probably well over $100,000 between the independent third-party evaluator, which he requested with his followers, that requested to have done, and all our legal bills and all the staff overtime. We're well over $100,000 at this point. Now, someone cannot claim to be a champion of saving taxpayers' money and at the same time saying, keep on top of us with this ongoing saga. And then not only that, now that same person is threatening further legal action in the future with it, which is known is going to be probably another $100,000 to $200,000. You can't champion saving taxpayers' money and at the same time saying, well, you know what, it's about me, so that's all bets are off. It doesn't matter at that point. That's not right. That's major hypocrisy. And as far as wanting us to stop attacking you, if you want us to stop attacking, just apologize. Meet the agreement of the original sanctions. Apologize to the people that you've wronged, and try to make amends with things. I believe in second chances. That's why I'm not asking for a dismissal tonight, and going down that road with that. I want to give some multiple chances. I believe in second chances. In fact, I believe in multiple chances, as long as someone is willing to admit that they might have done something wrong and try to make amends for it. And I'm gonna eat my own words with that right now, and I'm not gonna be a hypocrite, because the resident that called me on last night, I would like to formally apologize to you, Mr. Robichaud, what things that I said to you. I was angry, and
You can't unring a bell.
Can't unring a bell, no, but I can try to make things right.
Point of order, speak to the chair.
Pardon?
Point of order to speak to the chair.
Mr. Chair, I would like to be able to address the member public if he's willing to let me listen.
Certainly.
And I'm willing to put
We
it
can
in,
talk after.
I'm willing to put it in writing, Mr.
No,
Sir.
we'll talk after.
Absolutely.
Fair enough.
That is fair enough, sir. But I am willing to admit that I do things wrong. I make mistakes, believe me, all the time, quite frankly. But when I'm called out on it, I want to try to fix things. I don't double down or triple down on it. I want to try to make things right. Being a good, not just a good citizen. If you sit in this chair, you're supposed to be representing the community, and you're supposed to be professional and try to do your best. As you pointed out, Mr. Chair, we're all human. We all have weaknesses. We make mistakes, especially when things get emotional. My voice is cracked tonight. My voice is very dry throat from this. It's very stressful. As far as a toxic environment, this is what I'm talking about, a toxic environment. We're all upset. We're all stressed over this. And people feel like they can't even talk because we don't know what it's going to end up in a screaming match, particularly online. It shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't. This used to be a fun job. Now it's really difficult and stressful. It's difficult to try to work with the public when we can't even get anything done. We have projects from earlier in this year, actually going back into last year almost, that we haven't even been able to start yet because one specific councillor keeps telling people to make RTIP requests. Well, if you look at the Government of Brunswick own website, it says that the RTIP should be the last line of things where you look for information, not the first. The door over here is open all the time. Come in and ask people for help. Come in and ask questions. You can do that. It's an open door. It's a municipal office, a public building. Come in and ask for help. Come in and ask for clarification of something. I'm sure staff would much rather spend 5 to 10 minutes trying to help someone with something rather than spending 6 weeks on an RTIP request. Because every time one of those comes in, that's more things that can't be done. We have thefts in our property here because we can't have a storage building built. Another one of my projects, by the way, that we can't even get a tender process set up for it yet, because it's going to be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, because we don't have time. The staff doesn't have time to work with the Capital Regional Service Commission for it. So we keep getting things broken into and stolen. Like, this is a perfect example. Like, there's a better process to do if people would just look at reasonable solutions. There are reasonable solutions to all of this. Sometimes it involves sucking it up and saying, you know what, I made a mistake. It isn't council that made a mistake here. We didn't start this issue. But it needs to stop. It really does need to stop one way or another. But again, like I said in the motion, this isn't for a dismissal. I was really toying back and forth. I couldn't decide. And that's why, I didn't specifically say what the motion would be when I said that there was going to be a motion for it, because I didn't know what it was going to even be yet. I haven't slept in a week for this. And I already have chronic insomnia. It's just worse because of this. I'm on my edge. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do anymore. It's literally killing me. And something needs to be done about it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Councillor McKenzie.
Before we move on, I do think I have to recuse myself on this one, even though I don't agree with the principle, but it is about me. So I'd be correct in assuming that I do have to recuse myself.
I appreciate it, yeah.
But that would be...
Normally would, yeah, it's the same thing.
I obviously disagree with a lot of things. 1979 was when EPIC was founded. I digress. I'm sure people will reach out to EPIC of your father's court. And
If you want to declare it, by all means, that's your prerogative.
I think I have to. And the reason I debated this one just as a point of reference as opposed to closed session, that way the public can hear what I said. I didn't want to be in closed session so that I couldn't speak to the public later. And that's the difference between today and other days, so I appreciate the opportunity.
Again, Mr. Chair, just to clarify, I specifically even asked him to stay, as he was asked to stay in November.
Right, but I wouldn't do it in closed session because I wanted to be able to speak outside of it, because that's the rules, and that's why I refused to be here in closed session with you fellas.
Fair enough.
But here I got the chance to do it, so thank you.
That's your
I'm going
prerogative.
to step out.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so everybody's had a chance to speak openly and fairly and honestly. I am now going to call for the vote. So So all those in favor of suspending Councillor Septon for a period of, is it 90 days?
It is until the day after the October council meeting.
Okay, so suspension until the day after the October meeting or until he meets the sanctions?
Or, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the motion that's on the floor. I'm now going to call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those contrary minded.
Nay.
So we have a motion for, 2 against, so the motion is carried. So Councillor Septon will be suspended until that time. Immediately. Take effect immediately?
Immediately, it says yes.
Okay, thank you, Council. I think this has been quite trying. I'm going to call for a 5-minute break. I need to use the facilities and also drink of water because I've been doing a lot of talking. So we'll take a 5-minute break. Okay, after a 5-minute bathroom break, I'll declare that council is back in session.
As a point of information, I'd like to request that my preamble be included with the motion for the recording minutes.
Okay, moving on to item 12, correspondence.
Also, I'd like the motion to extend the meeting past 9 p.m.
Might as well. Thank you, Councillor McKenzie. I think we're going to be a little while yet.
Yeah.
Second?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Council, motion carried. Thank you, Council. So, item A, correspondence from resident RE garbage bylaw and tender process. Could I get a motion, please?
I move to receive the correspondence from a resident setting out his concerns with our current garbage collection and future tender for solid waste services.
I'll second it.
Any questions, concerns?
I have one.
Sure.
So I'm aware that garbage pickup is different in the annex than in wards 1 to 4, day-wise and so on. But I've not ever heard of challenges with bagged garbage not being taken based on size. So could you explain that to me?
You'd have to ask the resident to explain it, because I mean, it wasn't our question.
Well, the clerk might be
Can
able
I
to.
answer the question?
Sure, by all means.
In wards 5 and 6, you guys are picked up with Firo.
Okay,
Firo, I'm pretty sure, has an arm, so there's never an issue.
I see.
And wards 5 and 6 they don't have a garbage bylaw. They don't have a solid waste bylaw. We
Right.
follow the province, so so with Hamel, there is a solid waste bylaw. It's very specific. And the garbage collector is different, if that answers the question.
And so that would be made, the resident would be made aware of that? It seems he doesn't know that.
He is aware of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay,
So sorry, what was the message,
I move to receive.
receipt, okay, perfect.
so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those contrary minded? Motion carried, thank you. Okay, moving on to item 13, the mayor's report. Has everybody received my report? Just can I get a motion, please?
I move to receive the mayor's report as presented.
Seconder?
I'll second.
All those in, any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those contrary minded? Motion carried, thank you. Okay, committee reports. We have an emergency measures report, I believe. So can I get a motion to receive the emergency measures report as presented?
I move to receive the emergency measures report as presented.
Second. Any questions?
Could I ask a question? So the title is Emergency Measures, and in the report it refers to the Emergency Measures Committee, but in the committee bylaw, it's called the Emergency EMO Committee.
Emergency Measures Committee. The Emergency Measures Operations Committee.
So that's what we'll call it, Emergency Measures Operations Committee, or I'm just clarifying because the province has EMO, and that I think has morphed into a different acronym now, or a different name, and so I'm just trying to clarify what we are. what we have as our committee.
It's called our Emergency Measures Committee.
Okay.
It's not called an EMO committee.
But I just point out that
Yeah.
in the bylaw it has EMO.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's
But it's- I
maybe
guess
for
it's-
future reference, we could modify that when we look at it again.
It's one and the same, so.
Fine, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those contrary minded? Motion carried, thank you. So we have a Mactaquac Community Liaison Committee report.
And you all have read that. This is Councillor Pack speaking. I just wanted to point out that in addition to the presentation that is accompanying this report, a PowerPoint slide presentation, were some community comments at the meeting that aren't in that. So the public might be interested to know that the Wood Hog, which is the machine, the boat, I guess you'd call it, that goes, barge, thank you, that goes up and down the Mactaquac Lake shoreline, is going to be working this summer, and residents of Mactaquac Lake, property owners, are very welcome to call NB Power if they have driftwood and other floaters on the shore that they'd like picked up by that machine. And there are to be 3 open houses about the Lifetime Achievement Project, which is outlined in the PowerPoint that accompanies this report. And one of them will be in the Mactaquac area, and one will be in Fredericton and one in Woodstock. So I will be able to give you more information as we get closer to that. The CLC members have been asked to provide input about the proposed presentation materials, so we're to do that at the end of the month. And there's no end in sight to the traffic interruption on the road across the dam, Mactaquac Road. It will just be for years. People had better understand it will be for years, and they're thinking it will be total closure for periods of time each summer. So we'll know that in advance, and it would be something that the
We can certainly announce it on our social media.
Yes,
Comes the time.
and residents will benefit from knowing it, because the last count, there are over 5,000 vehicles crossing that dam every
Wow, I can
day.
attest to that.
Every day.
Looks like I'll be golfing somewhere else when the road's closed.
Yeah, or take a helicopter. And it's also nice to know that Kingsley First Nation Village will have its powwow September 15th to 17th. And I'll make sure that's announced again closer to the time. That's my report, thank you.
So it's the 15th and 17th for the powwow?
Of September, yes.
Yeah, okay, great, thank you.
We have a motion to receive the report yet?
No.
No, okay, can I get a motion to receive the,
Motion to receive the MB Power Community Liaison Committee report.
seconder? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those contrary minded? Motion carried, thank you. Okay, I think we're next just moving into old or unfinished business. I see there's no update on the rural little recreation building. Is there any update on the rural plan?
Nope,
Nothing there yet?
not as, hopefully that once a committee gets struck, we'll see more progress reports.
Right. Okay, so new business, item 17, A, street light on the corner of Nature Park Drive and Route 640. Can I get a motion, please?
I move to authorize and direct the clerk to contact NB Power and request to have a street light with a minimum of 6,000 lumens installed at the corner of Route 640, Henwell Road and Nature Park Drive.
I'll second that.
Any question?
Even with the reflective green sign, it's so hard to see that, like that entrance to that, because it's right in the hill or whatever, it's treed.
I don't know why it appears very dark there, and that I've had residents complain about that particular intersection. And even myself sometimes, when I go by, I think, why is it so vertical?
Yeah,
Anyway, it just makes sense to have one there
yeah,
for safety.
far be it for me normally to look at more lighting and so forth because of my issues or past association with the RAC. I've almost driven past the road. Like no exaggeration. Even with all the lighting in the parking lot, you're on it so quick after you pass the school, you can pass it. I can see if you weren't from here, it'd be very easy to miss the road. Right?
Well, perhaps a street light will help.
Yeah, hopefully.
We can hope.
Okay, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those contrary minded? Motion carried, thank you. Okay, item B, 17B is committee nominations. Has everybody received that report? Okay, I'll just read it out. It was the,
No,
You went.
I didn't get one.
either did
I didn't either.
Didn't get it till 5:15.
Yeah, we did right here.
okay, it's on item B, so you guys can read it there. It's included, I guess, in the agenda.
So,
So
you want me
the-
to read it?
Sure.
I move to accept the chairs and vice chairs for the following committees as presented. Age Friendly, Chair, Councillor Heislip, Vice Chair, Councillor Pack. Environmental Stewardship, Chair, Councillor Pack. Vice Chair is vacant. Anybody? No, okay. Governance, Chair, Councillor McKenzie, Vice Chair, Councillor Fox. Rural Plan Review, Chair, Deputy Mayor Jonah, Vice Chair, Councillor Fox.
I think they were going to be co-chairs, if I believe correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong.
We can call it whatever you want.
Yeah.
We'll-
Are you guys good with that?
I'm fine with the way it is.
Okay.
We said co-chairs, but.
Yeah, because that's what my report said also. But if
Yeah.
you guys are good with
good
chair
with
and
co-chair.
vice chair, that's fine.
It doesn't really matter.
No,
Doesn't matter.
no.
I'll second just for discussion now, I second it. I
Okay.
don't think it was seconded yet.
So, it is seconded?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So any questions, comments? Moving on, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried, thank you. Okay, we had item C, Capital Region Service Commission presenting at council. I believe there's a motion coming from
I
that.
did write up something for that. I move that after meeting with CRSC, that we only require the attendance at a monthly council meeting when felt necessary by either council or the commission, and otherwise we will continue to receive the monthly written reports.
Seconder?
Seconded.
Questions? I think everybody was at the meeting, that the CRC rep was here. So, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those contrary minded?
Nay.
So I have 2 nays, and, okay, we have
4 and 2.
4 to 2. So motion carried, thank you, council. Okay, so we have permit application, Valley View Estates subdivision appeal. This is being read into the minutes by Councillor Pack.
I would just like to remind residents listening this evening that I read for my colleagues here at the management meeting on the 12th of July, at the request of residents in Valley View Estates, an excerpt of the appeal they've made about a file, a variance file related to a sawmill in their neighborhood. And rather than take time this evening to read that again, I would encourage anyone interested to listen to that recording. I would like to acknowledge that the residents are most concerned with the PRAC meetings only being available to the public via Zoom. During our management committee meeting, that was discussed at length, and the mayor volunteered to write to the Capital Region Service Commission Board requesting that the public be able to attend PRAC meetings, participate in them by attending in person. if it is their desire.
Right,
So-
basically request them having their meetings in person and open to public.
Yes, it would be
Rather
the
than Zoom.
choice, yes. So I will request that again. I don't know if you'd like a motion or it's just a reminder that you volunteered to write that letter on behalf of council to ask for.
No, I don't think we need a motion. I'll write that letter up.
Okay, thank you very much. And that's all I have to say on the matter.
Okay, so item 18, upcoming,
No.
whoops, oh, where am I?
One more.
There's E,
We
remember?
have E and
Oh,
F.
yes. There we go, sorry, guys. Yeah, so, E was,
Rec agreement,
pardon?
update on the rec agreement.
Yes, so I'll turn that over to Councillor Heislip for an update on the rec agreement.
Okay, so I'm gonna give a little bit of a preamble just for those listening. So as most of you know, I chair the City Recreation Advisory Committee. Council had asked if I could find out if there was any update on the Recreation Users Agreement and how our newly incorporated areas were being addressed. This affects our two new wards, Wards 5 and 6, as the majority of that area is not included in the agreement. So I had a Teams meeting with Bobby Desprez, who is the Recreation Manager of the City of Fredericton, and Meredith Cooper, who is a Project Manager for Municipal Reform with the City of Fredericton. So basically, as it stands right now, the Recreation Users Agreement has not changed. Any area wishing to opt in must have a plebiscite at the next by-election. And the one-year waiting period is also still being enforced, as again, nothing has changed. So it was hoped that local government would be providing clarification on how to address the newly incorporated areas, but so far that has not happened. Until they do, again, nothing has changed. So given that the by-election will be held October 23rd, Hanwell should be prepared with a certified plebiscite and also be prepared to host open house. So the certified plebiscite question must be given to Elections New Brunswick by August 31st, which is only 6 weeks away. So as it stands right now, if the vote was to opt in, the area would not be able to take advantage of the rate until January 2025. And as for whether the plebiscite can only be done for a portion of the local government, I can't find an answer for that. I did contact Elections New Brunswick. They said it would fall under the Local Governance Act. However, it is not clear in the Act if it can be done for just a portion of the rural community. Basically, she said that local government would need to clarify that. So, my understanding is that the Recreation Users Agreement would need to be changed if it is the will of council to add Wards 5 and 6 to the Recreation Users Agreement without a plebiscite. Local government would need to determine the process. And so since time is of the essence, I believe Hanwell should be prepared with a certified plebiscite for the October by-election. It may not be necessary if local government makes changes to the agreement, but that currently is an unknown. In my opinion, council should also send a letter to the new Minister of Local Government addressing these concerns.
Okay. Quick question. You mentioned by-election, but in reading 59, what you have a copy of, it says general election.
59. Yes, it does, but Elections New Brunswick said that a plebiscite, when I asked, could be held at the next by-election.
I'm curious, it says that in 59, it's quite clear that it says a general.
But if you read the second part, it says, or any day within the period 6 months after a general election and 6 months before the next
General
election. So that's a huge...
That is, but 6 months after, which was like 6 months after 2 months ago, starting May, so if that's expired. And the next 6 months is for the 6 months beginning in 2026 in May.
Right.
So that's the only time that
No, it's
the-
in between those two times.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't fall in between those two times, that's what he's saying, so.
Okay,
it-
I read that the other way, at any time.
No, it does
beginning of
fall.
6 months
Yeah.
after a general and ending 6 months. Okay, that's good,
I'm
I
reading
apologize,
it.
that's what it does say in there. I read that was, which I thought was kind of weird.
Anytime
With
after
it,
6
yeah.
months. and
6
before
months and
is-
6 months, good, so we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if you need a motion tonight.
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay, to do this, because I really do feel it is something we need to get on, because it's only 6 weeks away.
I move that Hanwell Rural Community Council prepare a plebiscite question that fits all requirements of Election New Brunswick to be appropriately certified and submitted to Elections New Brunswick by August 31st, 2023, so that residents of wards 5 and 6 can indicate their opinion about being added to the current recreation agreement with the city of Fredericton.
Seconder,
I'll second.
okay, questions, concerns?
Yeah, just one question, I'm rereading it again. I believe the original thing you said was correct. It says that a plebiscite may be held on any day within the period beginning 6 months after a general election and ending 6 months before the next general election. So the last general election was actually for us, was in 2021. We only had a by-election. The full general election that was held for last November was not for the entire province.
No,
It certainly was not for Hanwell.
Would have been 2 years ago.
It would have been 2 years ago, and the next one isn't for another 3 years.
But it
So it
says,
is not falling within that period of 6
Yeah,
months.
it is,
It is.
let you reread it.
I am rereading
Because
it.
it's between the period after the 6 months of the general and before
6
6 months of the next general. So we went 5 years, there's a 4-year period in there where we could actually
Do
have a
it.
plebiscite.
Website, yeah. That's the way it reads.
Because I read it the way you read it the first time too, and I said, what? Didn't make sense, but it is
They won't take
correct.
it within the first 6 months because they just had an election.
Yeah.
And they won't do it within the last 6 months because there's gonna be an election.
That's
They'll
right.
make you wait the other 6 months. So anytime in between those times, you can have it.
I think we should get it clarified because if we're having questions about it right now,
No, I'm rereading it what I read too, I agree with Councillor Heislip that it is, like, if you take the period, like 6 months after the general, stop.
which is middle of
And 6 months
2021.
before the next general,
Yeah.
which is 2026, stop. We can have a plebiscite any time within that time frame. It's about 4 years within that time frame if you're running at 5 years.
Okay, yes, now after the 5th time reading it, now it clicks in, yes.
Okay.
Basically, they don't want it too close to the last general election.
Or too close to the next
No, the
one.
next one. That makes sense, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Fox?
So if I could just get clarification, because I got lost a little bit while Councillor Heislop was going through that, so I just want to make sure. So, so there is an option to not do a plebiscite, is that what I understand?
No.
Okay.
Right now, nothing has changed within the agreement, so we have to follow the process that was outlined in the agreement.
Okay.
So actually, we should make sure we have the plebiscite when they're doing the next by-election, because that's easier for everybody,
Exactly.
right? Because it's a by-election, not a general. So it would make more sense that they're in election mode, they're in plebiscite writing mode, so they can write that plebiscite and have it issued to wards 5 and 6. Easy peasy. Councillor Fox?
Sorry, I just need to make sure I'm very clear before I vote on this. So it is the agreement that requires a plebiscite?
Yes.
It's written in the
Yes.
agreement? Thank you.
Yeah.
That's all I need.
In order for somebody to opt in to the agreement.
Right.
Yeah.
We had to do it the last time when when the Hanwell Rural Community opted in. Ludford had to do the same thing when they opted in.
No,
They didn't do a plebiscite.
They were doing it in January. There wasn't an election, right?
So they just went around to their people and got
And
signatures
it
and
was
sent
a
it to the
local-
minister, and it was a
But-
local.
But it was a local service district, so
Yeah.
it wasn't part of this.
No.
Deputy Mayor Jonah?
I think this is a great idea. I think we need to do this, to have it ready, in hopes that in the meantime, we can get a hold of local government and write the letter. I will also have, well, I'll do it right away. I'll get in touch with Dan Murphy at UMNB and see if they will approach local government, because, you know, it's within our zone, and see if they could find out some information for us. He has contacts with them almost every day, so.
Okay, any other, Councillor Payne?
Two questions. First question is the easier of the two. This would just only be for wards 5 and 6 then, right? Though we get the plebiscite?
That's right.
It wouldn't be for the entire
You'd
municipality?
have to take out of Ludford out of that, because they're in,
They're already in.
they're already in, but
Okay.
they're also in Ward 6.
Yes. So the second question is a little more complicated than the first one. Since regional service, recreation now falls under regional services with Capital Regional Service Commission, should we be coordinating this with the Capital Regional Service Commission?
I think recreation falls under our mandate, though. That's,
It does.
It does, it's not
Even for a shared services agreement, which is regional?
currently.
Well, again, nothing has changed. Capital
Right.
Region hasn't said anything else.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
And just to clarify your first question, that is one thing that needs to be clarified, is whether or not the plebiscite would need to be for the entire rural community or just a portion of. There is nothing in the Local Governments Act that states that.
You did mention
or
that, yeah.
clarifies that, so just to make sure.
Yeah, and I'd like to clarify that we should get that clarified
Yes.
prior to that, because I would hate to see us go to a plebiscite and lose it.
yeah, on the technicality.
I take it down.
Right, okay, so that's, you got some notes on that, by the way, Sherry, so we can act on that?
I have the
Yeah.
motion all written out.
The motion's
for you.
done.
Yeah, but we're gonna end up, might have to contact local government.
We need to vote on it.
Yes, just getting everything in mind up. So, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those contrary minded. Thank you, motion carried. Alrighty. Now, item 17F, just to bring you guys kind of up to date today. We've taken on a lot of mowing since January 1st. Well, we didn't mow on January 1st, but since the summer came upon us and grass starts growing, we now mow not only around this building, we have to mow around Fire Station 1, which includes the ball field, the soccer field, and we have to mow on Fire Station 3 also.
No. No, we're not mowing on Fire Station 3, that's contracted out.
Oh, okay. I stand corred. Anyway, our mower has crashed, and the mower that we have on hand right now, it has crashed. It needs a muffler, unless you want to run a stock car. It's very loud, can't expect the students to run it, so we do not have an operational mower and won't have one for a couple of weeks, and I'm sure the grass is not going to stop growing over the next couple of weeks waiting for us. So I did some research on a Toro zero turn and a Kubota zero turn. Both 54-inch, both commercial. One has more horsepower, the Toro has 2 more horsepower than the Kubota. Anyway, I'd like to get a motion on the table. We'll have to take it out of our capital reserve to buy a commercial mower so we can have a mower to mow the grass. So, like I said, whether the Toro one is $2,000 cheaper than the Kubota, you're looking at $10,235 for the Toro and $12,236 for the Kubota. A couple of $1,000. They're both, you know, good quality mowers. All the golf courses around, if you ever noticed, if anybody ever been on a golf course, they pretty well run Toro equipment, but you see an awful lot of Kubota equipment coming out and going to. They're just kind of just getting in to, you know, mowers, zero turns, sit-on mowers and whatnot. Anyway, that's where we stand. So I think we need a commercial mower. We need a zero turn, something that's going to, you know, be, you know, efficient and effective in mowing and quick. So if I can,
Couple questions.
sure.
Do they know our end use? Like at the end of the day, like, we want that thing for 100 acres of
Oh, yeah.
combined.
It's commercial mower. They're
And what, with Kubota, what's got on for an engine? Like, is it a
20,
Kohler or is it a?
24 horsepower. I think.
Because I don't know if they make, do they make
it's a
their
Briggs-
own or is
Briggs,
it?
I think they use a Briggs and Stratton.
And Toro's probably
Toro's
not Briggs.
is Toro.
Toro.
Yeah.
To make a suggestion,
Sure.
we could make a motion to go up to the more expensive one.
Yeah.
To spend up to that, and then we could do the research on which would be the better option for the money.
Right,
That way you don't have to come back for another motion.
yeah,
Would that
true.
make sense?
I think that's a good idea to
I'm
start.
totally on board with Toro, but
Yeah.
I was just kinda curious on,
Yeah.
Well, I look at Toro, I mean, like I said, golf courses that I've been on pretty well exclusively use Toro. They use Toro mowers, they use Toro,
Well, if
dump
you're,
trucks.
if you're, I'm not familiar, so.
Yeah.
I was just-
Either one would be a good, I think would be, a
But if
you know,
you
a
guys
viable
are
option.
familiar and have a preference, then I have no problem.
Yeah.
I just thought from a research.
I just more or less worried that they know our end use, like, we're talking pretty near 100 acres that it's gonna be repeatedly mowed
Yeah.
for summer and fall and spring, so.
You can't get any better than a commercial mower.
No.
Yeah, so I mean, if you had a commercial mower, that's what they're made for, you know, heavy use. Councillor Peck, you have a question?
Can you give me examples of where, without it being in the budget, this sort of an expense has incurred in
You have to come
previous
out of our
years?
capital reserve.
But has this happened in previous years?
I don't believe we've ever approached capital reserve, have we? Not that I recall.
I honestly don't remember, but that's what capital reserve is for, is when, because we've
When something
purposely.
comes up that we didn't budget for.
Well, that's right, our budget has been purposely tight and for several years, and we've had already quite a bit of extra expenditure this year that we weren't expecting. This is exactly what it's for, and this is obviously something that we can't live without.
Yeah. And we tried to contract this stuff out, there's no contractors available. They just don't have the time to mow for us.
All for 100 acres, my God.
I'm just thinking of where the mention was made of using capital reserve funds for things like team building session, etc.
Capital is capital, it's things. Your capital reserve can't be used for,
It's
I'll
basically capital
correct
reserve
that,
is
in
buying.
that it wasn't in the budget, so we can't spend the money, is the thought. So I would really like more information on, I know absolutely nothing about lawnmowers, and this is the first I'm hearing of it, and I'm expected to approve spending that much money. Just a little bit more information and
Yeah.
table this until that happens.
Like I said,
You
I can
can't-
add more information. The two viable commercial mowers are very, you know, very viable companies. Kubota's top-notch company, and so is Toro. And you're looking at $10,000 and $12,000 for a similar commercial machine. So
So
I'd be
point
not-
of order, we don't have a motion on the table, so we really should have either suspended the
Absolutely, yeah.
rules or.
Yeah, I was just giving some
I
background.
know,
Yeah,
but we've gone beyond that.
yeah. Okay, let's get a motion on the table. I need a motion,
do we
please.
have one written?
I move to authorize and direct the clerk to purchase a zero-turn lawnmower up to a maximum of $15,000
Sounds reasonable.
plus HST.
Yeah.
Reasonable. Gives us enough to play with.
Out of what fund?
Out
Do
of,
we have to say that?
Yes.
out of the capital
Capital reserve.
reserve.
Okay. Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
Yeah.
Okay, questions, concerns?
I'd like to know, even if you'd send out a message that we were gonna consider this, I feel like I had a bit of advance warning.
Well,
To
this
spend
came up rather quickly.
$15,000.
We have no mower, grass needs to be mowed, we have no choice. So,
So, sorry,
yes, by all means, Councillor Heisler.
so when did the mower die?
Earlier this week, Monday.
No, so to Councillor Peck's point, yeah, it would have been nice to, so that we would have had a little bit of info prior to, but I'm okay with
Yeah.
this.
And like I said, the muffler is off, the muffler has been ordered, it's a minimum 2-week waiting period to get the muffler
Today.
to fix today. Councillor Fox?
So, in 2 weeks' time, we may have 2 mowers? Is that perfect? Because that was gonna be my question, is one mower enough?
We need 2
Given what
mowers.
we,
Yeah.
two's not
Given
even
what
gonna
we
be
have.
enough.
Councillor McKenzie?
If only we had a storage building to put them in.
There you go. Sorry.
I think it's a valid
Good point. But we do have a storage building down in Station
3.
3. Yeah, there's ample storage down there for us to put a mower in, so. Okay, any other questions, concerns? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those contrary minded? Motion carried, thank you, council. Okay, upcoming activities, youth drop-ins, youth summer drop-ins, Wednesdays from 9 to 12, the registration only, Hanwell Sizzling Summer Social, January 29th, rain date, oh, sorry, July 29th, January, that'll be fun. July 29th, rain date, July 30th, summer social to be decided, date in August. There's no closed session tonight.
Could I
Date-
just ask a question about the 18C item? Is this the one Taylor was mentioning in his message
I believe that's
today?
the Blueberry Social.
Yeah,
Correct
he's
me if
looking to
I'm wrong.
plan one, yeah.
Okay. I'm just thinking that if we do proceed with the plebiscite matter and are required to have an open house, is it a possibility that we would serve blueberries as an enticement for people to come and learn about the rec agreement?
Why not? Good, that's a good idea.
It's a great idea.
Well, it's supposed to
So-
be social entertainment.
Well, I'm not saying that would be the blueberry social, I'm just saying would we be able to
Serve
serve
something.
something?
We could have, for that matter, we could have coffee and donuts, I mean.
It doesn't, I just
Muffins.
picked blueberries because of the
Yeah, usually when we have an open house, we do serve coffee, tea, water, you know, sweets, basically. That's an enticement. All right, date and time of the next meetings, regular council meeting, Council Chambers, August the 16th, 2023, 7 p.m. Any other questions before I ask for a motion to adjourn? Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor of adjourn, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded. Thank you, motion carried.